Well, hey, everybody! I got cut off on my last video. I'm glad I heard it because I've gone on going for like 10 minutes making a video before I realized, oh, I ran out of space, or I should check that ahead of time. So this will be a lower quality. Not that that matters. Uh, really wanted to finish up talking about the Dr. Seuss books because the Lorax was basically the symbol for our modern times. The Industrial Revolution, what we've done. The thing about the Lorax was the fact that the guy in the Lorax, the character, he wasn't an asshole, He wasn't trying to abuse anything. He just saw a way to capitalize and wanted to. The Lorax kept telling him, hey, be careful, you're going to destroy all the forest. And he'd just say, oh, don't worry about it, pat him on the back, and think nothing of it. In the end, he saw his mistake. Just like we have. In the Sneetches, okay, so I'm going to go through this really quick again. We have the ones with stars and the ones without stars. The ones with stars all play these games and have fun. The ones without stars don't get to join in any fun. So this guy comes to town with a contraption, which he says, hey, if you give me $1, you can go through the machine and put stars upon your chest, make you look like the other ones. So all of the ones without stars go and they run through the machine and they pay their money and get their stars to look like the other ones. The other ones get all upset because they're all confused. Now we don't know which one's which, so they all go through, the guy comes up to them and says, hey, well, I've got this machine that'll take your stars off. So they all pay and go through the machine, take their stars off. So pretty soon you've got Sneetches going through the machines, getting stars on, stars removed, stars on, stars removed, and in the end nobody knows who's who. And everybody's all upset. And in the end, they all finally get along, and realize that, because the guy ends up, but here's the thing, the guy leaves town and he's got this truck full of money because they just kept going back and forth. And really that archetype for our idea of how we can stick with a group, and how if it's us against them, somehow one side can win. Because the other side will always find a way to try to fit in. And it also shows the way that in a society where people feel like they can't fit in, they have to look like everyone else and be like everyone else, and really bow to and cater to society's wishes to a degree. And how in the end, if we can all just agree that it's not about the visual appearance, it's not about what you have, it's not about how great you are, it's just about people. Those two stories together, I think, say a lot about humans, and especially since Seuss wrote them, I believe, in the 60s, these problems were starting to arise heavily around that time, and they had been brewing since before the wars. But during World War II, things looked bad, but right afterwards, America said, hey, we're at our best time in history. If you look at American history, the happiest time was during the 1950s. This was the white picket fence decade. And everybody had what they needed, and everybody was happy. The war had brought prosperity and created new jobs for the war, so people were finally able to get out of depression. And we've been in a war state ever since. And the problem is that the corporate world continues to tread over people like you and me. And we have really no say. There's very little we can really do against this type of greed. And when people talk about the big problems in the world, when I say, sometimes I'll make a video where I'll say, stop complaining or whatnot, because it's not about not complaining, it's not about not voicing your opinions, it's about finding what's really important. Something I thought about the other day was the way that the credit card companies, 30% interest on credit cards. These are issues that are important because a majority of Americans are in debt and have credit debt. And the fact that these predator credit lending companies are allowed to do this, running unopposed by most people because people just say, well, I need credit, you just got to deal with it. It's nothing new. Interest rates have always been around 25 to 35%, even back in, ancient Greece. The Romans had a tax, I believe, that was like 28%, something like that. I mean, or an interest rate, sorry, on loans. So anytime somebody loans money, you're taking a risk, and sure, I understand that, but what I'm getting at is that all of these problems that these two movies address, one trying to fit in so you can have what the other people have, and the other one is how if we rape and pillage society, we're going to pay for it in the end, and end up isolating ourselves from nature. And I know, I've met people who say things like, nature is this or nature is that, or I don't like going out in nature because of this or that, and I feel sorry for them, because if you live in the city, I can understand how you could say that. You wouldn't consider the local areas, nature. But when I walk out in my backyard, that's nature. I'm looking at my garden, that's nature. Anytime I walk out and see a plant, it's nature. And I also have come to understand and believe that in my time that I am nature, and I no longer separate myself from nature. The reason being, and this is my own personal take on this, is I believe that the reason why many people separate themselves from nature or from serving nature is because it would go against their desire to have more. In other words, say the owner of a major logging company develops a conscience, and stops and says, well, I don't want to cut down forests anymore. Not saying that a guy who owns a logging company is a bad person. They're doing what they have to do to survive. And many of them are very, good at what they do, but the point being is they justify sometimes, at least through the history, that, the trees grow back, we manage the forests, so we have done okay. But the entire time we have, these major companies, major movements that are all influenced by profit. And unfortunately, they have to answer to the stockholders. And so, in the end, they have to make decisions sometimes that are not necessarily in the best interest of the people. And the larger a company is, the worse it is. And so when we look around at all the problems in the world, when I see people pointing the finger saying the Illuminati are doing this, the Illuminati are doing that, I understand that, secret societies are easy to blame for everything, and maybe that's true. But what we have to do is, I think, put it in terms people can understand by saying, the credit lenders are doing this, these companies are doing this, Walmart does this. And a lot of people are aware of that, and they've started to, act on things that we can actually speak about. But people need to become aware, and when they keep hearing certain ideas repeated, it's hard for them to really grasp. Like, a lot of people hear the word Illuminati and they instantly just turn their heads and think conspiracy theory instantly. So I used to use that term when I was younger, but now I understand that it's much deeper than, basically, put it this way, the people who are really fucking up the planet don't have a name. They don't have any type of, they don't even deserve a name, but there's no name. They're sociopaths that have orchestrated and organized their families through history to dominate the planet. And the people that I give credit to are those who are out seeking out the individuals who are responsible for doing these things and putting them to shame, and shaming them for what they've done. And I don't know, the reason why I brought up, the whole thing about the Seuss books is because it's right in front of our face. It always has been. Every parent reading a child's story to your kid at night, how many parents have read that and just not really absorbed it because they don't want to admit that they're part of the problem. Once I admitted I was part of the problem, then I could figure out how to solve it. And so I've really spent years trying to figure out what's important and who is to blame for the biggest problems. And this is why sometimes people get really angry at me when we have a discussion and I say it's not the Freemasons, it's not the Illuminati, and we have to quit pointing the finger at so and so and so, and rather address the whole issue. That why do these people do this? How do they get away with it? Why do companies abuse the world, the earth, the planet that we live on, and why do we allow it to happen? Such as a company moves in on an area and says, okay, the locals have to move, we have a claim on this area, we're going to do this and that, and it destroys the neighboring communities. And nobody does anything because they figure, well, the person owns the land.